Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens, Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram. And this is fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 270. We got an amazing episode for you on this Thursday night. You know this gentleman here from around the community. You may have even heard him on Grow Room 420 community videos last week. Uh, Chad Westport, how you doing tonight? Tell us where we can find you. Tell us how you're doing tonight.
Dude, I am doing pretty freaking fantastic. Thank you, Eagle. I appreciate it. You can find me on forums. I am kind of a oddball. I don't have an Instagram, a Facebook, a YouTube even. I really kind of just try to focus myself on the community and answer questions. Like that's my thing. Is I like to help new growers in that aspect, and it's a heck of a lot easier to go to them than have them come to you. So find me on some forums that, like you mentioned, that growroom420.com. I love that place. So that's a good spot to find me if you need.
Right on, right on. Any chance that you're a member of the MJ Coco, Dr. MJ Coco's Coco for Cannabis Forum? There's good guys over there as well.
There are. I have found some very, very freaking smart people over on that forum that I have learned from and that I was excited to bounce information off of. So yes, I am on that the MJ Coco forum.
Good. Just hate to leave any good ones out there. You know,
Oh,
I've actually kind of got lost in the forums there for a while, man. I used to be a heavy user of the forums, and then when like kind of the big scare went down, like right around 2010, when Facebook decided to crack down and lost some of the other ones, the Dank Den and a few other ones that I was participating in, Mass Roots and a bunch of other goofy stuff was getting taken down on the daily. I kind of just got away from it for a while, and then Dr. MJ Coco came on, was threw that one out there. I signed up for over there. I was like, man, it's I forgot how nice the forums actually are as far as being able to chat one on one and keeping a good grow journal for yourself. It's definitely a nice option for sure.
it is. It's definitely nice to be able to catalog some of your work in that aspect and kind of have it, somewhat safe from, you're not going to get your page pulled or anything like that, like a lot of people are going through today. Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of forums throughout the history. Like the Icy Mag, I've kind of just looked through that one. There's the Overgrow. There's been a lot of the forums throughout the days, and I wasn't really a part of those. I was my life before weed has always been in my life since I was a young kid. Um, but I always kind of say my life before weed was music and audio. For a long time, I did DJing and music production and worked in that aspect. And a lot of my social media, I guess you would say, attention was focused on that. So I did have a lot of individual pages. I actually had done social media professionally for an audio company, which is probably another reason why I don't do it myself right now. Don't do anything you love for a living sometimes. But so I was involved in those type of social medias and forums back then. Didn't really get on the cannabis forums till really earlier this year. I've done a lot of work. I had a website, I had a business when cannabis was still in its medical phase here in Washington. Basically trying to educate seniors. That was my target market. You've been through a medical system. There's a lot of things that can get overstated. So anyhow, sorry, back to the point. Yeah, a lot of good forums out there. And I do look for ones where you can have an intelligent conversation. And I'm happy to have found, like a good handful of them where you can exchange ideas and not get called names. People are open to learning. You have to be open yourself. And it's just great. It's really more of a community thing that I have searched out and I've happily found. And, again, here, this is, chat crew here as I kind of consider part of family now too. It's great.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, cannabis definitely can change your life. That's for sure. And some of the best people I have found, some of the best friends I have found, have came straight out of the cannabis community. That's for sure. Some of the people that I would trust more than anything I found right here in this great community. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, just and this was a couple, I don't know, probably a week or so ago, just listening to this show, and I listen to a lot of other shows, but this show in particular, I have experience working at the dispensaries out here, and it's highly probable that people that are coming into these dispensaries never had a dealer. Like back in the old days, dude, you couldn't get it anywhere. You had to have a dealer. And one of the things that I kind of almost am bummed that people are missing out in that aspect, but this kind of reminds me of it, is like those conversations that you'd have on your dealer's couch. Like you would meet people from all different like schools or walks of life, somebody who you might not necessarily say hello to if you pass them on a street. But when we're all in here or you're all on the dealer's couch, dude, you got something in common. It's like all good vibes. And that just spawns a lot of creativity and shit like the rabbit hole, man. Just deep conversations. It's pretty great. So, yeah, the dealer's couch experience. I don't know if kids are going to grow up without that today. What do you think?
Yeah, probably so. They probably will not because they don't let you hang out like that in the dispensaries or in provisioning centers like that. That's for sure. Another thing I think's funny about what you're saying there is they'll never know, probably never know what the front is all about.
Yeah, front me, bro. I'm good for it. Front me. 2 weeks later, where's Jeff?
It
Uh,
was always nice about your guy there. You know, if you were in a pinch, you could always come on, man. It's till Friday, man. All right, all right.
yeah,
I doubt you'll find a provisioning center to let you go till Friday these days.
no, they don't take credit, man. Shoot. Although there were a couple times we had dollar joints where we're just like, that guy needs a joint. I'm tossing in a buck for you, buddy. But yeah, that that's a fun experience. So it's cool getting to meet all kinds of different people on the forums. And like I was saying, I like helping out. That's kind of why I seek out the forums where you can have these good conversations. But there's a lot of new growers, and especially with the lockdowns and people need a new hobby, a lot of new growers, a lot of things that people just, you don't know something until you know it. You can't fault somebody for asking a question that you've heard 1,000 times. But yeah, a lot of new growers out there. So it's fun for me.
I gotta agree with Ian there. That he says the dealer's couch sounds like a good talk show name, and it does too. I'm almost jealous of it, to be honest. Now that I hear it like that, I'm like, man, that would have been a good fucking name.
So just so you guys know, I'm launching a new YouTube channel. It's called The Dealer's Couch with Chad Westport. Be debuting on YouTube tomorrow. No, I'm just joking. Good one,
Be a
Ian.
good name though. Yeah, that'd be a great name, man, for sure.
Yeah, the conversations are fun, so I wanted to jump in here. And, I'm all happy to talk about anything. Just the Washington. It was medical. We had a really cool medical system here, and it got abused. It went recreational, and the good medical went away. I don't know. I kind of think that's how Michigan has gone as well. Yeah.
So when you say abused, what do you mean?
It came to a point to where if you had like a hangnail, all you had to do is basically have $200 and you could get a card. So Washington State, I think it was 98 or 96 that we've actually had a medical system, but there was absolutely no outline in that till around, I don't know, I think 2008 or so. So there wasn't really much protection or guidelines of personal possession, things of that nature. In 2000, it was either 2009 or 2010, the laws changed to where you still had to have a recommendation from a doctor, but it didn't necessarily have to be a doctor. So they changed it to if you were like a RN, LN, a couple different medical certifications that you can now write prescriptions. So when that happens, you saw a lot of people set up businesses overnight writing medical recommendations. And it was literally as easy as having the money in your pocket to get a card, which kind of sucked because there's a lot of people out there who legitimately had conditions and who could, really fit the bill of needing a medical program. But that, it was still all fine in that stage. People were getting away with that. But then people started stacking cards as far as collectives. As a medical patient in the old system, you could have up to 15 plants per license, they would call your prescription. So I could have 15 plants. My wife could have 15 plants. If Jim down the street has one, well, he could sign his recommendation to me. And pretty soon I have, a 2,000 square foot warehouse growing medical cannabis. That's where it kind of got abused, is it went overboard. And like anything, people will kind of take advantage of the system, and we were no different here. But it does suck because there was a lot of beauty in the old system, a lot of protections and rights for cardholders that now are just the only incentive to having a card out here is the ability to grow at home, because we are one of the only states that has recreational cannabis that doesn't allow for home grow. So you have to have a medical card to grow. You typically get 6 plants, 15 on certain conditions, and then you save taxes at the dispensary. Really, those are the only advantages, and a higher personal possession, but there's not much advantage to it these days.
In that aspect, I could say, yeah, kinda. We've abused the system a little bit. It is kind of easy to get a card, a little bit, but kind of funny to say. But the last time I went in to get mine renewed, it was in like a dispensary, a provisioning type center where they were renewing patients, and the position that I had that day fucking made it any. I know for a fact he was popping people in and out of there like all day long, and there was just something. I have, I'm bald. I have maybe in some people's opinion, some cop features, if you will. but this guy put me through the friggin' ringer, man.
Oh,
I really believe he thought, I was like undercover or something, and just, really put me through the wrenches that day. Where everybody else I noticed that were going in and that day were like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, in and out. And I'm in there for a half hour. I'm like, man, come on. It's because of the bald head, isn't it?
You probably made that guy sweat. He clinched the second you walk in the door. He's like, I've been waiting for this day.
Oh, you could pretty much, yeah. That was the look he had on his face, and I'm thinking just the opposite. Come on, man, can you get me out of here real quick? I've been in line all day.
Right.
But yeah, it was. I almost felt violated because I knew everybody else. I was like, well, why am I being picked on?
It's just being respectful of your time. Yeah, I always kind of chuckled too. Every year when I would get it renewed, it was a new business name on their license. But hey, I wasn't going to ask.
Yeah, I actually had it pretty good there for a while. I actually didn't even leave the house for many, many years to go get mine. I actually, in 2008, here in Michigan, I helped start the CRI, the Cannabis Research Institute. And it only went for about a year and a half. And that was for here, it was way, way ahead of the game. It was one of the first places here in Michigan that offered like a farmer's market. We had a doctor, we had a game room on Fridays and Saturdays. Well, we always had like a dispensaries like farmer's market, where the caregivers could come in and do their thing. But on weekends, we had it set up to where you could actually bring in like clones, and it was like a real kind of like farmers market. And we had a workout area and some other stuff, but in the end, the township fought us tooth and nails, which created a lot of problems with everybody that was putting it in there. But we had a doctor that was associated with the club there, and then from then on out, it was I just actually had him come to my house, and I would do like small groups at my house there every year. And it wasn't until I kind of moved up here that I actually had to start going down to him. But actually, the last time he offered to come up, but I can't remember, just didn't make. It was had a tough time getting the group together, so I ended up just kind of popping in on somebody else. But yeah, it was a pretty sweet deal there for a while.
That is cool. That was something that I would love to see. We never had any of the social aspect to it up here. There's never been really any clubs that you could go smoke at. Vancouver, BC, that's the closest place where you could go up and smoke in a cafe and do all that stuff. But the old medical system here, you kind of mentioned there, a true like farmers market where you could go pick up cuts and stuff. That was another thing I loved about the old system, and that's where I got a lot of my cuts, a lot of my strains was from the medical dispensaries. They had just a great selection too, and this was 2010, so it wasn't I'm not trying to like offend anybody, but it wasn't cookified yet. There's no cookies into anything, so it's nice to have a lot of things that were kind of pre that timeline to play with and to work with and to still grow and smoke. I enjoy that stuff.
Very down, very down. Do you have what? Well, I didn't even ask you. Do you have some cannabis you're fixing to chief on over there? As I'm thinking about rolling someone up myself.
Yeah, I do. I actually loaded. I've got some pre 98 Bubba Kush that I bought at a store. That's not one that I had myself, but standing by, I've got some Afghani one that I grew myself. So might toss some of that in too. That one, that's fun. It's a older type of weed. It definitely, I don't think it has as high as a THC percentage to it. It's not as loud as you'd say with the terps, but it definitely has a good stone to it. It has kind of a behind the eyes punch to it, and I dig that. So I'm into the older stuff in that aspect, and trying to see what it's gonna do with some of the newer stuff, and play mad scientist, fun things, fun times. How about yourself? What are you smoking on tonight, Eagle?
I am smoking on a little bit of Starfighter. It was the last one out of four. I'm almost, it's not bad, but I had high hopes. I got a soft spot for the runts, the misfits, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's what this one was, man. She took forever to kind of come up, and she was just when she pushed her way up, when she was like 6 inches tall, you could just tell she was going to be a bush. You know what I mean? Which was total different structure than the other three. And I thought to myself, "Oh, you're the special one. I'm going to keep you."
Yeah.
So the other three came and went, and they were happy. Well, they were decent. I wasn't going to brag about them or nothing, but they were decent. But I still had hopes about the old short bushy girl there, and I put her into flower, and I was all excited. She had pretty much exhibited all the traits that I would look for in a nice keeper. And then I pulled her down about a week and a half ago, and it was like, Every everything was pretty, but man, there was no like keeper traits there. I mean, she wasn't like super frosty. She
Yeah.
tasted all right as far as the buzz goes. It was like I was just waiting for a creeper. You know what I mean? It never happened though. It never happened. So now rather than pass it on to my patients. I'm just gonna cheap the fuck out of it. Just get it
Yeah,
raw.
yeah, it's good to roll that stuff up and have a little bit of fun. That's another thing that was cool about having like a med card, and with that limit you could produce a little bit more than you need, so you get the opportunity to play around to make like, well, I want to try a tincture, I want to try candies, I want to try whatever, a freaking hair straightener with some, oh god, I can't even think of the paper name now. Not the wax paper. I don't know why I'm blanking it. Probably because I'm smoking. But
Parchment. The
thank
parchment.
you. Yes, you're free to like screw up some weed if you want to, which is nice.
Yeah. I was actually sitting out there at the kitchen table earlier today, and I've got, some trim and some baby nugs laying around. I was thinking about making some hash, and I was thinking about fucking ice and all that good shit. And I thought, uh, fuck, I don't need no ice. I was thinking to myself that, hell, it's going to be like 25 tomorrow. I'm like, man, it's wintertime here. All I need to do is fucking put the overalls on and fucking go outside and make hash
Yeah,
is all I need to do. And
carry the
so I
bucket of
think
stuff.
that may be something I do this weekend. Just set up on the back porch and fucking just make some really outdoor cold hash. See how that turns out.
Yeah, probably gonna turn out beautiful. That's one of the best things I can recommend anybody do with their trim is make some bubble hash with it. I used to just roll it into joints, or you can turn it into butter and cook with it. But I bought some bubble bags not too long ago, just a cheap set on Amazon. I'm not gonna, go hard and buy the washing machine and all that stuff. But yeah, I kind of just save up my trim throughout the year, and I want to start in my mind now that I've done it and I've liked it, and I saw, just like, woo, this stuff is fun to have. um, I want to try making it just like an annual winter thing, maybe a New Year's thing every, New Year's, like you're saying, it's when it's cold outside, you don't have to have as much ice. But yeah, if you save up your trim and you got some frosty flowers, I was amazed at what you pull off of just your trash, basically. It's a great thing to do. I try to use all the plants if I can.
Definitely. There's so much to use of the damn thing, Actually, the roots are actually usable. I mean, I've actually seen people, and I don't suggest this, but I have seen it. People actually washing stems to make to hash out of. I've also seen people use stems to make like a herbal tea. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Just kind of breaking some up and putting them into their little tea thing there and fucking drinking it. But yeah, the whole damn thing it really realistically is usable. I've actually seen people just take the shade leaves, not even decarboxylate them or anything like that, and make them into smoothies. And swear it was what do you call it? The Voodoo Gardener there,
Yeah.
John from the Voodoo Gardener. Yeah, him and the Boogie Brew guy there. One of their episodes, they made smoothies out of the just the fan leaves, the shade leaves, earlier in the day, and they were both tore up through that video. And they kept referring to it too. I can't believe I'm this high from just a
Wow.
smoothie.
Wow. Shade leaves. Okay. I don't know if they tossed any hash in there or not, but yeah, there was,
Oh no, they said straight up just leaves.
wow. Okay. I gotta try that. There was a girl that I worked with, and she had, uh, some like stomach issues, and she would always ask for the fan leaves so she could juice them. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I freaking just, compost these things anyhow. So I'd give her just a grocery bag full and she'd be stoked. And I'm like, all right. So, I got to try that. Never went that route.
Yeah, actually, Tribal Gardens up there in Canada, who I actually posted his audio uh, podcast of his interview today, but he juices them. He
Yeah.
actually makes a juicer, and he like juices them into ice cube trays and then freezes them and then just kind of pops them into whatever he's drinking, and helps for the long-term storage. But man, he had a fibromyalgia was one of his problems, and man, he said it was like night and day after starting to juice that he noticed he had like problems with his fingernails and like loose teeth and stuff like that. He said within a week or so of juicing that he could notice the teeth firming up, and the
Wow.
strengthening in his fingernails, and a lot of pluses into the juicing. uh, Definitely something I'm interested. I haven't made that tipping point yet, but it's something that's definitely on the radar.
Yeah, the more and more things like that I hear, it's it just more and more supports my belief of just full plant medicine. And like I'm a big flower guy. I love smoking my flower. I have no problems with other methods of, dabs, whatnot. That's cool. But I really like the flower. For me, it just the other like a vape pen definitely getting me stoned. Dabs are definitely getting me stoned. They're getting me, like really stoned. But there's just something subtly different in my body. Again, everybody's body is going to be different. That's kind of like the juicing the leaves in my friend. I'm like, okay, if it works for you, that's I'm happy. I don't think it do shit for me, but I'm happy for you. But yeah, just with my body, that whole plant medicine, there's something to it. There's just nobody's been able to like nail it down into a solid argument yet for me, but there's just something to it.
Yeah, there is something to it. Just plant medicine in general, I think, is something that needs to come, back a little bit more. I'm gonna. Yeah, I hate to say this too. I said this to somebody today that I just I don't like doctors.
Well,
and I'm not, I know I'm not the only one, but I try to avoid them whenever I can. So if I can find something special, natural that can make me feel better, I go that wrong. To be honest with you, one of my first go tos, I take vitamins, of course. I try to get much of my vitamins as I can from fruit. But if I get sick, one of my first things I grab is honey and one of them palm drinks. A pomegranate fruit. It's the palm drink.
yeah.
Man, a good fucking bottle, or one of those bigger bottles of that palm shit seems to set me right every damn time. I don't know what flavonoids and all that stuff that are in that palm drink, but man, that thing packs a hell of an uh, immune system spike for me anyway. Tends to knock whatever out.
Almost kind of like growing plants in your body. It's like you take it to the edge and it starts to let you know. And then, fortunately, through experience, you've got the right knowledge to add the right thing at the right time. But yeah, the body and the plant are pretty similar things as far as how you can approach their health. A lot of people, it's great. Um, or organic living soils, the permaculture. Shout out to GMO worm bins. But yeah, it's exciting to see a lot of that. I haven't myself figured out how to incorporate that into a 5 gallon container that I use for 3 months or 4 months in a bed in bigger. I do stuff outside for my carrots and my veggies and all that. And if I had larger land, I would definitely be working more of the permaculture food forest um, type setup. But I want to get there indoors in my little container that I don't use for that long. So that's a hard one, but it is fun hearing a lot about that. I know you've been talking about that stuff lately. Do you what are
So
you
I,
doing?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem there. I was just finishing up a rambling thought there about how I'd love to get into more organic stuff, but try to kind of find it on a smaller scale. I right now am I just do a regular soil. There's a little bit of cocoa mixed in there. There's perlite. It has some amendments in it, but I bounce back and forth between a few different feed systems based upon which run I'm doing or what plants I'm doing. I didn't know what you were doing there, or I don't know. Have you gone the organic route yet?
I'm dipping my feet back in there a little bit. Usually I'm in cocoa and salts, but Smiley's Gardens, of course, you know who Smiley is.
Oh yeah.
He's been on my ass since day one to, experiment a little bit with the organics. And finally, he put together, some earth boxes, you know, passed them along. So they're here. I do have a little bit of his version of like the Coops mix there,
Okay.
going in a couple of earth boxes, and then I've got my cocoa going next to that, and then I've got another kind of twist on things going right now, and that's I've got the green bicycles, Ocean Bounty, which is like a dry amendment that you mix in with your soil or whatever. And so I mix that in with my cocoa, and it's pretty much a water only type setup, all pretty much organic inputs. And so I'm running those three side by sides, and the two organics on each side there, that both the green bicycles and of course Smiley's makes are looking pretty good. I definitely have noticed some difference in the structures of the plant versus the salts that I'm running, but I'm very interested. I'm kind of right there with you. If I can actually figure out how to, keep everything in rotation and, fit it into the schedule the way I can with cocoa, yeah, I think I might be all in. It's just that converting that over without a hiccup in the schedule that may be the tough part for me.
Yeah, and that's dude. That's cool that Smiley's got a mix going, and actually, that's how I loaded up the YouTube page to try to get to the chat, but I haven't actually clicked on it to load it up. And Smiley's last episode is sitting here, so we were talking about the organic, food and how it treats into your body, and that's I saw him sitting there, so that's how I got onto that topic of asking you. But thank you for actually sharing with me what you're doing, because I like to get everybody's input. There's so many ways to do it. There's actually a lot of right ways to grow this plant. There's definitely agreed upon wrong ways, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I kind of come from like three minds here. Is, like I said, is I like to try to help a lot of people, help a lot of new growers. A lot of times what I'll recommend for them isn't something that I would necessarily, well, I don't know. Here's like a good argument. A lot of people like cocoa and love cocoa. I personally think that maybe soil's going to be a little bit easier, a little bit more forgiving up front for a new grower, just because it doesn't have the same feeding requirements. You don't have to be as spot on with your nutrition. You still need to be able to read deficiencies or toxicities in a plant, but you're more likely going to see something in cocoa if you don't know what you're doing than soil. So I the three mindsets is, I always try to think of like the person starting out in mind. I try to keep it as simple as possible. You don't want to overload people with all the variables and, different things. You want to talk about humidity, and then we'll move on to BPD. So I come one from like the beginning mindset to the mindset of like what I want to do for myself. Right now, it's Washington. You can't vertically integrate, and there's limited licenses in this state, so I'm not able to do things on the scale that I want. I still have the medical card, and I'm able to still keep progress moving forward for myself. um, but if we were able to vertically integrate craft cannabis in this state, and unlimited licenses, that would be great. So I'm thinking about that mindset as well. A lot of the things that you do at the home level, or in like a 4x4 or a 5x5 tent, that stuff doesn't necessarily translate to a 20x20 room or larger. So I try to think of that mindset too, because I'd love to, have like 30 plants. I'd love to be craft cannabis. Ultimately, if we had federal legalization and everything was freaking peachy, I would love to do craft cannabis and have a roadside stand. People will come for good stuff if it's good. If it's not, so what? Um, so I try to think of that, things that I could scale to that level. And then also having the commercial experience here at a really large indoor. There's a lot of things that I try to, I try to think at that level too. I mean, wouldn't it be fun one day to be involved in something that I almost want to say that is that large, but still has a soul? I don't know. Maybe that's just a pipe dream, but I'd love to find the company that really is passionate about what they do and they believe in the end product consumer and do everything right. We'll see if that happens, but I figured it would be cool. So I always try to keep my mind in that world too, because again, I had that experience working at a couple places here. I went to school specifically for a sustainable ag degree to have something that looked good on paper for these people. There's a lot of knowledge out there, a lot of things the traditional agriculture has been doing for generations that the weed industry is now just like, hey, latest and greatest. But there's also a lot of plant research that has never been conducted on cannabis. So that's exciting too. So just the kind of the three mindsets that I have is when I look at different methods and different approaches, and when I talk to people, again, that's why I love asking people, what are you doing? Just to see how and where that fits into the three. Because if you're, I don't know, I was saying this the other day, it's a quote I love, like taxi driver wisdom, man. If you're a smart person, you can see what's smart about the next guy. But secretly, if you're afraid you're an idiot, then okay, to you, everybody's an idiot. And you definitely meet those people. So I try to be the smart guy and just learn from everybody.
Well, that's a good way to be honest with you, because everybody has something to learn, be learned from, and that may be a lesson of something to do good, or that may very well be a lesson in something not to do. You know what I mean? But there is most definitely something you can take from everybody. That's for sure. And good or bad.
Yeah, this is true. There was one guy that I worked with at that facility, and anytime I'd mention something, I'm like, oh, thrips, or oh, spider mites, or oh, PM, he'd always be like, yeah, I had that. And then he started giving me advice, and I'm like, dude, every freaking like natural disaster in the world I mention, your answer is like, I had that. I don't know if I want to listen to you, buddy. But yeah, experience.
Yeah.
You've got to make mistakes to learn. And I don't know. To me, deficiencies is kind of one of the things that I've had to learn a couple of times, because a lot of times deficiencies look like everything else. So
Yeah, that's for sure. That's one thing that I've actually want to. I like to preach when I give advice, which is very not often. um, is if you're really serious about growing, man, that is to learn how nutrients work. How they're being uptake in the plant. If they're mobile or immobile nutrients. You can, if understand how they work and how they're being uptaked, and you can diagnose what's going on with your plant a whole lot better than you know
yeah,
if you have no idea on how the nutrients are working in your plant, you can be chasing bugs You can chase this, you can chase that, but if you've got a good grasp of that, then you're way ahead of the game on knowing whether it's a deficiency, a bug attack, or whatever, or
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, and those are the things that experience can bring you. Knowledge is one thing, but experience is another. I think if you combine the two, then that's great. Um, yeah, frick, you said you said something there, um, just about oh fuck, stoner moment right there. I tell you what, but I was inspired. I don't know what it was, but yay. People making mistakes and learning. Yeah. Shit. Derailed. Sorry, guys.
But like you were saying though, some of the making mistakes and learning are the ones that you remember. The lessons that you've learned the hard way, and they're like embedded in stone after you've walked through that mile there. So there's nothing wrong with making some mistakes and learning from them. That's for sure.
Oh, you brought it back for me. You did inspire me, but you mentioned the mobile and immobile nutrients, and that is totally spot on. That's kind of how I start out the conversation. I'm like, okay, well, is it on the top of the plant or is it at the bottom of the plant? Just kind of generally start to figure out that process of elimination. It's all, that the scientific method, but there really is. There's like definite approaches, established approaches that you can use to identify things. And a lot of times when you demystify something by just giving the approach, like again, okay, look at the top, look at the bottom, where is it on the plant? Okay, is it going from the tip of the leaf to the base? Is it going from the petiole to the tip? Is it in between the veins? Is it yellowing? Is it spots? Is it necrosis? What is it? But yeah, you follow that, just kind of the chain of command, for lack of a better term, of how to diagnose your plants, and just that in itself can lead to easier answers, because like we were saying, it's overwhelming. A lot of this stuff looks similar. I was kind of a recent example, just myself, was I was feeding, probably I had, it looked like a little bit of a magnesium deficiency, and so I was treating that with CalMag, and the abundance of calcium, going back to what you were saying, you really need to know how these things interact in the soil and with each other and in the different pH ranges. But I was adding extra calcium. It was in the CalMag because I had what I thought was a magnesium deficiency. So I was adding the extra calcium, and with all the extra calcium I was adding, it wound up locking out the potassium. And that is something that, definitely possible, definitely happens. The initial effects that you see from it, it looks like a little margin burns on the edge of the leaf. That also kind of looks like a magnesium deficiency. Some intervenal chlorosis, where it turns yellow in between the veins, matches both of those as a deficiency. But you get a little bit of tip burn, and kind of the thing that it took me a couple attempts to figure out was the tip burn. You get a little nutrient burn. It's maybe just like a centimeter or two on the tip of the leaf. But with the potassium, it's going to go a lot deeper than that, and it will actually kind of turn brown. Depending upon how long you let it go, it can go a lot further down the leaf. So that was my experience, and this was soil. Again, it wasn't cocoa, so I do know cocoa in general is going to take a little bit more calcium requirements. LED, I haven't really seen the science for it, but I believe it from enough people that LEDs, you're going to use a little more CalMag as well. But in soil, yeah, just kind of watch the calcium. Could lock up your or your potassium there. So like you're saying, it does all have an interaction, and you got to learn and just learn how it works together and the experience of it together. So pH problems are probably the most common, but yeah.
You know, uh, We got way ahead of ourselves here, Mr. Westport. We got way ahead of ourselves here. You know, we need to double back a little bit. We need to
All
double
right,
back.
I'm sorry.
So let's start back from the beginning here. When did you actually get involved with the plant? You know, when was that first time? You cannot come on here and not tell me about your first time.
Right. My first actually like seeing weed, touching weed was I was in junior high. I was in the 8th grade, I'm pretty sure. This kid that I was buddies with, he wanted a Zippo I had. So he's like, hey man, I'll trade you the Zippo and give you a bud. I didn't smoke pot. I didn't know what pot was really at that time. I'm like, yeah, whatever, cool. And so we traded that, and then we're at school at the time, and we're in the bathroom, and then we're walking out of the bathroom right as we did this, and the principal comes walking down the hall, and his little brother looked guilty as hell, ran back into the bathroom, just basically like made a scene. So my first actual experience with holding and touching cannabis, I got busted right away. Wasn't off to a good start. But I smoked it for a long time, since I don't know, God, since I was like 14, long time. But as far as the plant goes, um, 2010 is really when I started with a purpose as far as growing any kind of plants. I started out like a lot of people. Um, I had a limited budget at the time, but I had just got my med card and I had the authorization to do it. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. Had some bag seed, had some CFLs, had an extra bedroom in the house I was living at, but I wasn't thinking industrious at that point. I just emptied out a little closet and put some plants in there and didn't really do much more than that. I just kind of watered the plants, and I learned that you had to change the lighting cycle to 12-12, and then it would flower, and that's really kind of what I did. So it was 2010 when I got started growing kind of with the purpose. Um, I'd say it took me a couple of years to figure out that, yeah, I really enjoy this. The medicine that I was providing for myself, it was better than what I could get elsewhere. Well, there were medical dispensaries, so that stuff was good too. Um, but then I just really kind of started to take it on and learn it for myself. Again, with that medical card, I was able to get clones once I was able to get some really good strains. Um, that just kind of sparks the love even further and providing medicine for myself. And like I was saying earlier, is, I always kind of say like music was my life before weed. And I was doing that for an audio company, which sold in 2016. And I had an audio engineering degree, which for what I was doing, it's a fairly specialized degree. It's not something that's very common in the States anymore. So since the company was sold and went over to China, they said, hey, we'll give you some training. What do you want to do? And that's when I took the sustainable agriculture program. And that was a couple years. That was till 2016 to 2018. Graduated in that, and that's when I started working at some commercial facilities, and then the stores, and just progressed that way. I've had kind of a journey as far as what I wanted to do. I know that I want to be in this industry. Like, that's cannabis has always been a big part of my life. I think it's a great thing for many people. I don't think it's for everybody, but I think it has a lot of potential to help people. And that's always something that interests me. And so I know that I've wanted to make it something that I want to do with my life. So originally again, in the early medical days, I had started out with that business for seniors. It was a medical marijuana, just kind of network to try to help educate them. That was good, but there's a lot of big money interests that came in. And, as they always say, at the 11th hour, I kind of got wedged out of that. I had been working with the Olympia, the Liquor Control Board were the people who write the regulations. They're now the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board. But I had been giving them input, just unsolicited input on a variety of things. And they had reached out to me, and we talked a few times when the system was switching over to the new medical system. Um, they were looking for input, and they solicited me to help design the current medical marijuana certification program for people. And that was an interesting experience. It gave me the opportunity to kind of, work from within. They always say, if you want to change something, change it from within. I've always been like the outside rebel. So I started to try to do it within, but again, 11th hour, everything was in line. I had my curriculum, I had everything. 11th hour, uh, special interest came and said, well, you can't be an instructor if you don't have a doctor's degree, B, a horticulture degree, or C, one of the RN certifications. Or no, a lawyer, sorry, or a lawyer. So they added that to the legislation at the last minute, and that was kind of my exit from anything in trying to help with that medical side or the medical aspect. I was no longer qualified in those eyes. That's kind of how Washington has gone. And I know I'm getting long-winded here. I'm sorry about how I came to the plant. But just to kind of cover my overall journey with the plant is, I used it as a kid for recreation, but also medicine, unbeknownst to me, helps with a lot of things. And then as a medical patient, yeah, I started out with the education, got kind of pushed out from that side, and then went into the mode of like, okay, well, I want to be a grower. I'm gonna go get this education. I want to grow. I want to breed. I have all these things I've done. I have these ideas, and I love marketing and I love business. So I looked at these things. It's not realistic to get a license in the state. There's only a limited number. They've been spoken for many, many years. There's a few that are available on a secondary market. So if you do want to get involved, you can pay the fees, but you can't vertically integrate in this state. So I can't grow it and sell it to the consumer. I have to give it to a middleman, sell it to, the dispensaries or whatnot. And I just don't like that model. There's also what I always kind of refer to as the Amazon model. Which is one of the companies that I worked for, not Amazon, but the company that, dude, they could lose money for years on end and they are perfectly happy with it. So there's a lot of big companies out there that are happy to lose money until you go out of business. And in the meantime, they've been gaining market share and, reputation from having cheap prices. So there's a lot of that in Washington. A lot of the licenses have gotten consolidated. There are no craft licenses. There are no specific breeders licenses. I was saying the other day, if I could get a dedicated breeder license that allows me to run 200, 300 plants, but I have to turn over 98% of my harvest, I would do it in a heartbeat just to do a bunch of pheno hunting, kind of playing around with cannabinoid profiles and whatnot. So that doesn't exist. That was kind of my second life in cannabis and my relationship with the plant. Is I was like, okay, I'm going to be a grower. I want to get the medicine out there. I'm going to breed. Dude, that's not realistic here in Washington right now. I could go to Oklahoma, which would be awesome. Oklahoma sounds like I could do everything that I wanted to. My wife would kill me. So Oklahoma's kind of out, but we'll wait for everything to change and it to go federally legal, and we'll get the blessing and I can open up my craft cannabis and sell it on the side of the road. And if nobody shows up, that's fine. I'll work some different strains, but I've just been working different things, working different strains. I want to have things that work personally for my body the best. That's really what it's about. But I know there's things that can help other people. And I also believe that's one of the things Subcool was really, really big about, was medicinal strains and trying to find the right profiles, terpenes and whatnot to help the people that he worked with and people he knew. And then he brought that to the public. So, again, that's something that I would love to do. But it's my journey with the plant and my is really come full circle. Is I'm back to, I just want to help people grow. I just want to educate people. I looked at doing the educational aspect before on a professional level. I think that's being done well enough out there right now. I don't think anybody needs that right now. Um, on the big level here in the state of Washington, I'm just, dude, I don't have the bankroll to do it. I don't have the patience to play along with that game. So ultimately, it's about helping people, and I think my soul feels a little bit better. It's a little less delusional of grandeur in this aspect. It really comes back down to my personal belief of how this plant can help people, help bring people together, help unite people like it does with these shows. It helps build communities like with these forums. I know people from all over the world that I would never have known just because we're able to talk about cannabis and we have a passion for it. And also for the health benefits that it can bring to people. And it's nice to remind myself that really that's what this is about. Opinions be damned. I'm used to living in an area where it's really easy and accepted to talk about cannabis or health benefits. But a few years ago, I moved to an area where it's just, you don't talk about it. It's still kind of a taboo thing. It's weird, man. But that was a really, really long-winded way of explaining my journey with the plant. So hopefully I touched it for you. But yeah, man, 2010 is really when the journey started, and it's been a few things since then. Um, but this is where I'm at now. I just love growing for myself. I love helping people, and I have a big picture in mind. I'd love to be doing the craft style stuff, as I know a lot of people would be. And there's a lot of great growers and great minds here. So that's kind of why I enjoy hanging out. I know a lot of you guys are definitely above the basic stuff, and some of those questions. But I also get a really good feeling too that there's a lot of listeners here that are going to have these type of questions. And shit, man, sometimes the simplest things, like I was running cocoa for a while, and pH, there's the more forums you get on and the more shows you listen to, you find that there's a lot of different opinions about things. Some people believe in pH, some people think it's a myth. I'm just going to check my pH every time and try to keep it in a certain range. But yeah, just like talking to people about pH and things of that nature, trying to keep it simple for them. I forgot where I was going with that again, damn it. But yeah, I'm getting on this OG Bubba tangent. I know you haven't talked for a while. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. That's what it's about. This is your episode. That's what they're here to hear. They want to hear you
Hey.
ramble tonight. So no worries, no worries.
Yep. Oh, Coco. See, thank you. All I need for you is Eagle. You're the caca in my wings, buddy. But it was back to Coco. It was Coco. You want to run it at a different pH range than you do soil a lot of times. And my point before I totally derailed myself was, even experienced growers can forget simple things. I was running cocoa for a long time. I had switched back to soil. I was still pHing it for cocoa, wondering why I was having a little bit of a pH issue because everything should have been proper and in range. And I was listening to the DGC, and they were talking about pH ranges for cocoa and soil, and I just fucking face palmed. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, anybody can pull good stuff, information, new knowledge, or knowledge that you forgot.
Right on. So, what's your current grow looking like? You want to walk us through a virtual tour of that, if you would?
Yeah, definitely. I'm getting ready to switch things over here in the next week. So things are getting a little bit of tall. I like to do some kind of manifolding, a little bit of low stress training, some topping on my plants, just to, because I do a perpetual grow. So I clone it the day I put it into flower, just to, I have pretty reliable strains right now that I've been working with, so I know that they're going to clone. So I'll clone it, put it into flower, and that gives me about 10 days until I put it into a little, like a 4x4. I always put things into a 4x4 container, just to let it build a little bit of a root zone. I find it just makes it easier to get watering and drying out, air ratio easier if you go into a little 4x4 right away. And then I transplant them up. Um, so I clone them when I put them into flower. So I'm about to do that soon. But right now, in the veg, I have a couple different Dutch treats right now. Did a couple seeds of that last time from a seed run I have. The phenos are pretty dang consistent. I would say if I popped 10 of them, 7 of them are going to be the same. One of them's going to be kind of a mix, and the other 2 are going to be like the dad that I used on it. So I have those 2 Dutch treats in there right now. I want to see which pheno I like the best. So I have a hard time getting rid of plants, but that's something I'm about to do soon. So I need to start some new things. Okay, so I've got the 2 Dutch treats in there. I've also got an Afghani #1 female. I've got my Afghani #1 male in there right now, which is about to go into the side separate tent with a few of my Dutch treats. I also have 2 new genetics this time. I wanted to get some sativas and try to cross that with the Afghani #1 male, just to try to get heterosis, hybrid vigor. Take an indica, take a sativa. Hopefully you get, that vigor, since they're not super closely related. Um, so I have the sativas that I was talking about are Lemon Sunrise from Irie Genetics. I haven't run anything from him before. So it's kind of exciting there. I got a decent amount of beans of those beans. So these I'm just gonna kind of run flower out, see what I get, see if I like it. And then if I do, I'll put them in the tent with the male. And then I also have a Wounded Warrior, which is a strain. It was a bag seed that I got, I don't know, a couple years ago, that I've been running. It reminds me of like a Kush. It's got kind of really stacked golf ball buds with almost that kind of like crown top to it. Turns really purple in the end, but it's super gassy, and that's what I like about it. It's like I love the gas. My dream is getting some Chem 91 seeds that are real. That's like only second to getting the old Roadkill skunk pack, which is everybody's dream. Um, so yeah, in the veg right now, I've got the Dutch treats, the Afghani #1s, the Lemon Sunrises, and the Wounded Warrior, and and the Skunk #1. Skunk #1 is new this time. I haven't flowered it yet, so this will be the first time flowering that Skunk #1. Hopefully I get something skunky, but it's pretty much through veg, and I'm not really pulling a smell off of it yet, so I don't have the highest hopes for it. We'll see. Um, So that's what I have right now in veg that will be going into flower in about a week. I'll be taking out the original seeds, plants of the Dutch treat. Again, a lot of people, I have heard this, will say that sometimes you'll get a variation between the plant, the seed form of it, and then the clone. You'll get a little bit of a variance between the two. So I always try to take my judgments off of clones, not the actual seeded plant. Thus far, I haven't really seen a big difference. I don't know how much, I'm sure there's truth to it, but I haven't really night and day seen a difference to it. But anyways, so those first two Dutch treats with the seeds are coming out. Got a couple of the Afghani number ones coming out, which I'm going to discontinue this time to make some room for other things. And well, actually, I have two of the Afghanis in there. I had an A and a B, just to play with different phenos. I have a hard time getting rid of plants. Like I'll put the seeds in there, so that's one run. I never make my decision off of the seed run, so then I have to have the clone run, so that's two runs. And you never really get to dry, cure, and smoke that run by the time you need to take new clones to keep it going or not. So it's basically 3 runs, which is basically 6 months for anything I try is the minimum that I have it running, which can be a drag and can make things go slowly, especially if you don't know which one quite has the little nuances that you want. But that's why I had 2 different Afghanis in there, but I discontinued one already. I'm discontinuing the other this time to make room. And the Wounded Warrior in there as well. And yeah, just the 2 Afghanis, 2 Dutch treats, Wounded Warrior. That's what I've got in there right now. And I'm hoping, I've been getting some pretty cool genetics lately that I've been wanting to try. So that's why I'm trying to make room in the veg. I'm definitely going to keep the Dutch treats going. I haven't, again, smoked them yet, but they have all the right growth. They have all the right structure. They're just dripping with grease, big, fat, greasy trichome heads. That's the one thing about the Dutch treat. I'm pretty proud about that strain, the version that I have of it. It's gorgeous. So that's something, that's a jar of things I'll always leave on the table for people to try. So I'm going to keep that for sure. Again, I've got that skunk number 1. I'm hoping for good things off of the skunk, but if I don't get it, that'll probably go out. Some things that I've wanted to try that I'm going to be putting in there now is I've got from Ethos Genetics, there's a Chem OG Back Cross 3 that I want to put in there. I'm hoping that kind of replaces, because I love that Wounded Warrior, but I have it in seed form that I made and also the original. So if I need to or want to get back to that, I know that I can. So I'm going to take that out. That's my current gas staple. Take that out, put the Chem OG Back Cross 3 in, see what I can get there. I've got some regular seeds, so we'll pop a bunch of those, see what I can pull out. Also some Temple Runts, which I've never run anything Skittles or Gelato or Runts or anything myself before. I've never had the wallet for what some of those seeds cost, but I was blessed enough to be sent some of the Temple Runts, which I guess is Temple Kush times Runts. I just want to see what flavors I get from that. So I want to do a couple of those. And then I also have a Big Bud, which I will be popping in this next run. That is definitely going to be for just kind of breeding purposes. If it's an old school classic, it has less narrow of a gene pool, and it is just a yielder. One of the things that I kind of see or kind of think about a lot of the strains today is there's a lot of things that are just super frosty. There's a lot of very high THC, but I don't see as many yielders as I remember in the old days. And again, that's, I'm playing with some of those older genetics, hopefully trying to bring some of that yield to some of the newer strains. There's a lot of other focuses that I have with it, but in particular, that Afghani male I have right now, just super, super tight, short internodal space, great structure. I'd love to hopefully pass that on to some of these other strains that are, a bit wider, a bit more open, just to see if you could to pump up the yield. So I'll have the big bud going in there kind of for that purpose. I'm going to put it against the Afghani to start with, just to kind of reinforce my stock or my supply there. And that's a cross that's been done decades ago. But it's always interesting because we're not working with the same parents, even though we're working with the same parents. So that'll be interesting. But that's what's going on in my garden right now as far as the strains go. As far as some of the other things like lighting, I've been a lifelong HPS person. Recently, this is my first run right now. I'm finishing that is done with LEDs. And I do finally feel that, yeah, they can keep up, if not outpace the performance of what the HPSs were doing for me. And I've never run full bore like 1,000 watt lights. I haven't had for in my personal grows. I haven't had the space for a light that big. So I've had a 400 watt in the HPS, but that served me well for many years. So yeah, now I'm converted onto that LED kick. I switched over in veg a while ago. Years ago I had switched from the CFLs to blurples. Got better results, and then once I switched from the blurples to the quantum boards, the white light, much happier plants. Like the leaves were bigger, the fingers spread out better. They just looked like a much happier plant. It was pretty dramatic in my eyes. So that has me sold on it there for veg. And again, like I'm saying, I'm seeing just as good of, if not better results in flower. And that was what had always held me back. But I do kind of miss the heat of my HPS right now. I'm running a heater to keep the flower room hot, and I'm like, that's stupid, but whatever. It is what it is.
I definitely feel that the LEDs have came that far. I'm ready to take them down. It's just a matter of being able to I've got 4 HP 1,000 watters kicking right now to replace all the all four with equivalents. Is a nice hunk. As they fall one by one, I think they'll be replaced. But I definitely like what I see with the LEDs for sure.
Yeah, me too. The HPS, they are good because I mean they do have the right price point and they're easy to get. But once the LED again, if it were an even dollar for dollar purchasing decision, I think yeah, a lot more people would be with the LEDs. But there's always going to be people that grew up or have done things a certain way and they get great results. And I kind of, people ask me like, oh, well, what do you think of this nutrient solution? I'm like, well, if you're getting good results, why do you want to switch? So
Because there's always something. The grass is always greener on the other side, isn't it?
oh man, it's torture. There's so many products now that pot is popular. So many things to choose from. It's hard, and you got to be, you know, patience is part of growing cannabis. Just the whole growing it and then the drying it and curing it. It takes so much patience. But if you want to learn what a new light or what a new nutrient line has done for you, you can't change anything else in the next few months, or you're not going to know really what it did And even then, I'm that guy who's like, well, it could have been a chance. So I have to run it like 2 or 3 times with the same conditions to be convinced, okay, yeah, that's brilliant, or that's garbage. Or most of the stuff that I have done or tried, it just ends up in the category of like, well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I'm not sure either way. The switch to the LEDs, definitely. Um, I could say without a doubt, the that white light over the blurple color, yes, that made a big difference. But a lot of the feeding things, anything from like just adding terpinator or doing different like Epsom salts. I don't know, man. It maybe made a difference.
Can just see as the market progresses, and if they let us keep growing, how the advertisement can actually just try to steer down the barrel of the whole stoner. Uh, what's the word I'm looking for? The whole stoner. Damn it! I'm really drawing a blank. Damn it! Stereotype. There we go. Uh, Total brain fart right there.
I'm learning.
And just the commercials being all like Budweiser, like aimed towards the grower, all chicks in bikinis. Oh, if you're not growing this, you're just growing weak ass buds and shit. Just right in between the commercials on the fucking Sunday sports and shit. Fucking right next to the beer commercials. I can imagine. I can only imagine. I can
Oh,
only imagine.
that is awesome. And yeah, you're totally right. I think Jack in the Box nails their fucking like attempt to get stoners with their commercials. Their shit's pretty funny. But oh god, yeah, the Super Bowl commercial. Do you even VPD, bro? Do you or
Yeah, yeah. There you go. That's a good one right there. Yeah.
oh, shit, that's funny. Yeah, it's there's a lot of choices out there, and there's a lot of new things. And again, I'd love to
But
see. Oh, go ahead.
it's a lot of that though. I can only imagine how much of that advertisement and shit like that will actually fuck up more gardens than it'll actually, benefit. You know what I mean? Because so many people are so eager to, want to step things up, to just get that next little bit more out of the next run. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So if people are, chasing that next best thing, uh, when things spiral out of control, they'll never know what the fuck's going on because they've got too many new things, too many new great things. This power SI. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, for
It's the
sure.
next best thing. It's going to make my life incredibly different. Now I just got to have this and that. And, I can't wonder how much that shit actually fucks gardens up. Hurts more gardens than it actually helps.
Right. My current example I could think of with that is the Kangen water. I do not know enough about it to even speak from an educated standpoint. So I'll just start with that. But some things just like at face value, I'm like, you're spraying the water with I don't know, because it's a anyways, yeah. Again, I don't know enough to speak about it, but there are all these crazy things that are going to come out of the woodwork, and probably 10% of them are going to be good. A lot of them are going to be that snake oil salesman stuff, but that's why we need more research with cannabis, specifically on the cannabis plant. Again, I've studied a ton about other plants and systems and soils and all that stuff, but that doesn't mean it's going to apply verbatim over to cannabis, because probably it won't uh, translate over like that. And I do sometimes, again, it's like I love working. I feel confident speaking and helping the beginner growers. Like there's a lot of the basics and the principles and the foundations I'm confident in talking about that all day long. There's an old one of the quotes I love from my audio engineering teacher. He was a freaking cool ass guy. Taught me a lot. But one of the things he said, and it stuck with me for life, is, you know, he's like, you got to know the rules before you can break the rules. Because once you learn how things work and the interrelationships, the cause and effect of how the system is, once you know those rules, then you can start manipulating them and breaking the rules to your advantage. So, you know, you start basic with the plants and you try to keep it basically just try to keep it simple. And fuck, I derailed myself there again. This is good Bubba. I just need you to talk for a second and then I'll remember and I'll keep rambling. Sorry guys.
Gotta love that bubble. Gotta love that bubble. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
I forgot what we were talking about there. I'm doing that a lot tonight.
Squirrels.
I apologize, man. But you
squirrels happen, man. The squirrels happen.
Talk with a lot
I'm
of
actually gonna take a quick little dab of Tommy Trichome's 2 scoops he sent me there. I guess I can turn on the camera long enough for that, right?
Nice.
Since he's in the chat there, this is the 2 scoops that he sent me. The damn thing of not. There you go. Sent me this, pretty nice, and then also he sent me this Dosey Sherb, which is really pretty as well. Both of them super tasty. So, cheers to you, Tommy. This dab's for you, my friend. Thank you.
Cheers for that. Dosey Dos is one of those strains I've been seeing a lot of crosses that I've liked with. There's one, it was a Dosey Dog. It was a Chem Dog 91 in Dosey Do. Kind of had the taste, the front end of the Chem Dog, but had more of the energy from the Dosey Do. And then another one I liked is out of Oregon called, well, actually, shit, it's everywhere now, I guess, but it's called Duct Tape. It's just a GG4 times Dosey Do. It's a great strain.
Right on. I'm looking to try some of these Mac crosses that are floating around and look pretty good myself.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, I haven't been able to find it grown very well. I've had it here in Washington from some of the rec stores, but it doesn't mean that it was grown in the best conditions or that it was dried in the right conditions or cured for that matter. I always joke it's like Croptober leads to no cure November. So there's a lot of wet stuff in bags, and I've had Mac 1, had a fair share of it, but I can't really say I've ever had that just greatly grown and cured nug of it. So I can't really pass too much judgment on that one for now, but that is a super popular one. I can't even really describe like the flavor profile of it. And that's something that I always look for in strains is just going back to audio and being a DJ. It's like I could hear a song and be like, okay, well, this song is like that song, so these two are going to work together. I get that with weed. It's like I'll smoke weed and I'll be like, oh, okay, well, this is basically like that strain. Every now and then I'll get that strain where I'm like, I have nothing to compare this to. It's its own thing. Those are the ones I get really excited about. But yeah, Mac, I don't know. I can't even put a flavor profile on it really. Do you have a favorite? Are you like a fruity, floral, earthy, gassy kind of guy?
I like the jet fuel, and the pines are among my favorites there. When it comes to the fruits, I kind of like the limey fruits. As you know, and I'm not so big fan of like earthy tones myself, but they do pack a very nice buzz. I find the earthy tones. but just not my favorite flavor profile in general. But if I can find it, if I'm grabbing, you know, fuels and pines first. Oh, I do the holy grail too. I guess I forgot that. If you could ever come across some, roadkill skunk, that would be obviously my first grab,
Yeah, yeah,
followed by the other two. But that one's like never, you never get to find that. So it's usually the fuel and then pines if I can get them.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you there. I definitely I went through. I'm either ahead of the times or behind the times. It just depends on which times they are. Because for the longest time, when a lot of the OGs and the cookies were really popular, I was really into the fruity stuff, and that I can attribute to me getting my hands on some TGA genetics and a few other things. So I was really into fruity when the gassy and stuff was cool, and I was a little bit ahead of the times there. But now that a lot of the market, at least out here, wants that the terps, the flavors, the taste, the fruities, I'm kind of going more back towards the fuels and stuff like that. So I've gone from being ahead of the times to behind the times, but everything is a big rotating revolving door, whether it be music, fashion, or taste in weed. So it is kind of nice to see that passion or desire for the roadkill skunk to come back, because that is the one strain that I would love to see that would bring me back to my high school days. um, but to bring it back to going back to that point where I last derailed, I was talking about, you got to know the rules before you can break the rules. And I was saying that I feel very confident in giving beginner advice, and that's something you've done a million times, you've experienced it, you've learned it, so it's great that you can explain it. But there's a lot of the things that we talk about and that you talk about and your guests talk about on the show. It's like, hey, I'm just as eager to learn these things. It's like I do kind of know these things, but sometimes it's like you'll have a hard time putting them into words, or you may be able to do something and get good results, but you can't necessarily explain it. And that's why I do enjoy, again, helping out the new growers and trying to teach people. That is the ultimate way to perfect your knowledge, is like once you're able to teach somebody something, you have a pretty firm grasp on the concept, the various angles and the approaches to it, the variables. And so we were talking about kind of more of some of that advanced stuff, and there have been a few papers, because again, I love to always search out that knowledge. There's a couple papers that I do. It's a series. It's called High Science with Chad Westport. A couple of the ones that I've done lately that may be of interest to some of the people you've done. I know it was kind of cool. DGC uh, called me out, gave me some props for those, and talked about them. But two of the things that I was looking at recently that are a little more advanced that I always love to get input on from other people is one, uh, uh, drought stress. Does it increase your yield? And we were talking about how there's a lot of studies on different plants, but not a whole bunch of different ones on cannabis plants. That's where this all started. Uh, but these tests were specifically done on cannabis plants, which I thought was fascinating. So I try to look for these papers and then do little write-ups on them, because I enjoy the boring white paper aspect. I understand a lot of the terminology and the methods, and like for every 20 words they use, you really only need 2. So I like doing those high science articles. And this one basically broke it down. It's like, will drought stress increase your yield? That's something a lot of people talk about on forums. In a nutshell, yes, it will under these circumstances. And by talking about yield, they're meaning secondary metabolites, so cannabinoids, like your percentage or amount of THC is going to increase, but you're not going to get a weight difference, which was actually kind of amazing. It was essentially the last 11 days of this plant's life. They took it to 54 days. It was a CBD rich strain, so it was a drug type 1 chemovar 2, which is how they classify things in these studies. They don't really say indica or sativa. They drought stressed from day 39 to like 52. And then they rewatered it. It got back to the regular moisture point, and then they harvested on day 54. But what they found was that the dry weight in between the control group and this group was essentially the same. There wasn't a noticeable difference to it. But the secondary metabolites, the amount of THC increased a small percentage. I believe it was like 12.5%. And this also applied to the CBD as well. Both of them increased. It makes a small percentage on the bag. I believe it to, like, as my example, it would have taken it from a 20% CBD to a 22.5 on the label. But on the commercial side of things, which is where a lot of this plant science is going to make the biggest impact, the amount of cannabinoids per square foot or per meter squared, as they measured it, increased by like almost 50%. And if you're a big producer that is making concentrates, dude, that can make a pretty big deal for you, just those little things. So that was a study that I was really interested in, because again, that has major implications. I always say these little changes that we can do at the home scale or even at the craft scale, when you're talking about like a difference of 10 grams per plant, it doesn't sound like much, but if you multiply that by, we had at that facility, we had over 20,000 flowering plants. So 20,000 times 10 grand, that's a whole crap ton of money. So these articles are pretty interesting for me in that they would apply to that aspect of the game, but you can do that at home. I'm actually trying that right now. I posted up on a few different forums the paper that I wrote, and other people had chimed in. They're like, yeah, I let those things go limp. I drought stress them the last 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever. And they do tend to be frostier. So that's something that we could even apply at home ourselves. And I'm doing it right now with a couple plants, and I really think there's some truth to it. So that's an interesting one. And then there was another one. The other one that was getting kind of talked about was about sugars in plants and how leaves are sinks and growing stems are sinks for the sugars that the root zone take up. And that sugar inhibits the outgrowth, so your lateral growth. And this, again, it was studied specifically on a plant, cannabis plant. And that made it really interesting, because if we can add sugars into our root zone and get better lateral growth, is that going to affect our overall yield?
By stripping, though, you actually drive up your bricks, natural bricks in the plant, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because those
So when you de-leaf, yeah,
those can add.
it's one of the benefits of you de-leafing there.
Yeah,
I prefer de-leafing myself, defoliating to use the correct.
yeah, I defoliate I don't do it as hard as I probably could. Just I'm still torn on the debate of them being solar panels. I try to tuck if I can, but I'll also defoliate. And I know for a fact I can go harder than I do, and it's going to be okay. Just based, and I think a lot of this had to do with light intensity. But at that commercial facility, dude, we would freaking just strip the crap out of those plants, like down to nothing. They would look like the saddest plant. I'd put them back into the room. I'd come back the next day at lights on, open it up, and they're a fucking just huge, shiny, happy bush again. Like, yeah, the defoliate, you can defoliate pretty damn heavy and still have a happy, well producing plant. But I know that a lot of the conversation has been about bricks lately, and again, that is just sugar. That's sugar in the leaves.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up there, is because when you were talking about adding sugars, but by deleafing, you're driving up the bricks sugars in natural sugars in the plant up by without adding it, making them produce it itself from the soil. Was all I was interjecting there. But yeah, but deleafing also, while we're on that subject, since I brought it up there, in veg, I find produces a way bushier of a plant without topping or manipulating the plant other way.
Yeah. Okay. Here it is. I actually just pulled up kind of the paper that I had wrote, and it was basically dealing with apical dominance. It was one of there's 3 theories with apical dominance, and we all kind of use the apical dominance as an argument for why we top our plants or why we low stress train our plants. Is we know everything, like a lot of the auxins, the growth hormones, are going to go to that tallest branch. And so there was a new study that was done a few years ago that actually had better insight into how the sugar production worked. And what this says is, going back to the defoliation, which is kind of what stuck in my head. I'm like, well, there's something to it, but the study says basically a small reduction in photosynthetic leaf area due to disease or herbivory could result in the inhibition of bud outgrowth. And that's in particular during the early stage of the plant growth. So basically, if you defoliate early on, like really small plant, early on in its life, if you're defoliating and you're taking away that leaf area, that leaf through the photosynthetic process is creating those sugars. And that can actually help, those extra sugars can actually help with your lateral growth. So there's you top it, it redistributes the auxins, you get more growth. But now another part to that theory is that the sugars are involved. So that's where I wanted to go back to it, because I knew it kind of advised against defoliating early on. But again, that reason here is just, it's just the photosynthetic leaf area. It's helping to produce those sugars. So if you do take that leaf away, you're taking those sugars away too, and those sugars would have helped with the lateral outgrowth. But then, once you get into the more adult phases, kind of all bets are off there. It's creating enough sugars through photosynthesis elsewhere that it's fine. But they did play a large role in the shoot outgrowth. And I said earlier, I do the perpetual harvest, so I need to find ways to manage my canopy and keep it from getting too tall, because it's going to veg for at least 8 weeks. So the apical dominance things, to kind of, again, I'm trying to learn that rule so I can break it to my advantage. And one of the takeaways from the paper for me was, okay, well, if I add more sugars into the root zone, which the roots can't directly take up the sugars, you have to have microbes and the mycorrhizae working in the rhizosphere there to basically get the sugar into the bioavailable format for the plant. So you can't just add sugar water to it. But if you get it in there and you have the microbes and all of that, and they're working together, my question is, or my thought at least is, why don't I just add a whole bunch of sugars early in the veg stage? Because this is showing it to promote and cause that lateral growth, provided I try to keep things level and not really give it apical dominance anywhere in particular. Those extra sugars are going to help that lateral outgrowth, which could help me create more of a plant. But I don't.
My experience in that is your plant will start taking up the sugars. It'll start bypassing the system, and you'll get a buildup of sugars in your soil there that will begin to ferment and turn things south.
Okay, okay. If it can get anaerobic, see, that's the thing that I haven't figured out yet, and that's why I kind of put the paper out, and I love talking to people. It's like, okay, at face value, sweet, add sugars, everything's good, but I don't know enough about the negative effects or the side effects, whether it be from a
And
scientist.
I'm here to tell you, I did that lateral growth that you're talking about there, the negative aspect of the defoliation. I don't see that, and I've actually uh, uh, showed it quite uh, off camera, well, on camera a lot. Well, defoliate in the beginning there with, let's say 8 stages of growth or less. But when I defoliate, this is, one of the more bad examples here. But man, not so long ago, I was, damn it, I got to shut the background off. This is actually the plant that I defoliated with Coot a few weeks ago when I was on the air with him. And as you can see, I actually stripped this down to pretty much, well,
Okay.
these bigger leaves here. And it drove out all these lowers here. And when I go through and rip out this top again, it will slow this top down enough to just drive these right past the top. More to
Yeah. That
this
looks
would
like a
this would here this here would be like the next stage of what I just showed you. This plant hasn't really been topped or nothing. This is just heavy defoliation.
okay. See, that's nice. You have a lot of nice even tops on that plant. You have a lot of main shoots there, and like the defoliation. I mean, that looks great to me. I always try to, I want to be able to see my hand on the other side of the plant, but I don't necessarily want to be able to read a book through it either. And those, I mean, yeah, those look great to me. The only thing that I do maybe a little bit different, and this has absolutely no right or wrong to it at all. Uh, it's just a preference. Is early on, I kind of clean up the bottom stuff a little bit more, but everybody's light is different. Light penetration is going to be different, and I see, I've seen the background of this show. I've watched it once or twice, and what you're doing is definitely working. So please don't get me wrong there when I say, well, I do something a little bit
Oh
different.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's the purpose of a good conversation, is just to put all aspects out there. And one more thing that I want to say about that too is I really believe that light source is key to this. I've grown. I found a long time ago the blurples actually. I would, if you've got some blurples, I would try. They veg in like the first stages of veg. Very nice. Produce short, squat, short internodal spacing, real quickly, and then take it up a notch to the more whiter spectrum of the LED there. But I just find that the LED overall, the plant utilizes it from top to bottom a lot more efficient than the other sources of lighting there. And I find that even in flowering, you know, that larvae shit that we used to cut back a lot of times there isn't so fucking larvae anymore under the LEDs. The plants, even though that they're not necessarily getting the same light, the plant is just sending energy, utilizing that energy so much greater that the bud density down there isn't worth throwing away anymore. That larf is definitely worth keeping anymore for sure.
That's
But
that's
I
that's
love
good.
those LEDs.
Yeah, the light penetration is one thing that I heard about. That's good to hear. Again, I'm finishing right now my first full flower run with the LED. So all of my training or my cleaning up has really been based on running it under that HPS for so long and not having super deep penetration. I probably will be able to make some changes, and it's good to hear that experience from your end that I probably can get away with a little bit more of it. This next run, the ones in veg right now that are getting ready to go in. I do have one that it's more of a like almost more of a horseshoe or a bowl shaped training. The middles didn't fill, or they didn't grow as evenly as all of the other plants. It's got a couple tall ones on the outsides, looks like a horseshoe or a bowl almost. But on that particular one, I did leave a lot more of the lower things. Now it's the Dutch treat, so I have a Dutch treat that's totally, you know, nice and even, full, strong, multiple tops going in there. And then I have the other one. So it's the same strain. So I should expect that they should both perform similarly. But one of them is cleaned up. The other one has some of the lower stuff. So yeah, hopefully I find that too, with this next run using the LEDs. Again, that's kind of a new one on me as far as flowering and how much or how low I can get away with having vegetation on the plant.
You'll find they definitely a little bit of a different learning curve there. The way some of this traditional way you grow under HPS isn't. They have you vegged under them yet? Have you had a couple good veggies under the LED yet? Ever? I
Yeah,
mean, it's a total different ball game. You know.
yeah. Of course, I never really used the HPS or a metal halide for veg. I went from CFL to LED in the early days, and then the LED basically I went from Blurple to the white quantum boards. But yeah, I think that's something that also too maybe could be a little bit of a shock to the plant is when I was vegging under the LED and then throwing it under the HPS. That might have maybe added a few days onto the mix there.
Quicker flower,
Yeah.
quicker flower time. I mean, usually see flower. You go from one to the other very quickly. You see, flowers and weed too almost. Definitely a lot quicker flower set. That's for sure. If you want to see a little bit of more of that stretch time, then I would give them that. Actually, there's space right here. That's what these are doing. Damn, here we go.
Sorry, man. I screwed up the program.
No worries, brother. Uh, background. That's what these girls here are doing right here. They've been under the LEDs there, T5 LEDs there, and that's what that's going on there. And so now that these girls will be going into an HPS tent, they are like acclimating, if you will, right there for about a week, you know. So basically, what's going on there is like during the nighttime right now, they'll be in front, kind of getting used to that HPS light, and then during the day, they'll be kind of shoved back under that T5 unit there, and I'll kind of like let them go the rest of the day, veg time, which is 24 hours here. And then, but if they weren't though, if they were just going back into the LED tents back there, then I would just, you know, transplant them up and then just throw them into those tents. But when they do go into those tents, because I don't want that quick onset of flower there, I actually do like the stretch. I can manipulate and try to get just a little bit more out of the plant. I will let them acclimate in front of there for about a week.
Smart. Yeah, basically just letting them harden off.
Yeah,
Doing
pretty
that
much.
sort of thing. Yep. And harden that off, and that's good.
Hopefully, I didn't throw you off there, my friend.
Oh, no. Okay, sorry. Back back there. Don't know what happened there for a second. Um, yeah, getting them hardened off. That's I'm jealous of the space that you have there. I'd love to Probably like a lot of people, I'd love to be doing a lot more at the moment, but it's just not feasible. It's take me. I was saying the other day, it takes me a good couple years to do a little bit of work that somebody with the right license can do in 1 or 2 runs, but it's all worth it to me.
It's definitely an evolution there. That's for sure. That's the home grower. It's very addicting, you know. As you fucking clean up a space and you have the plant numbers, you definitely go, I can put something there. You know, and as for me, you know, and I've gotten to learn to play in my numbers, is, you know, and I've always, you know, to each their own, everybody their grow styles, whatever. But man, when I see a 4x4, you know, or basically, if you don't have, you know, a patient or any other patients here, your count's 12. I hate to see those shots where you're there 4x4 tent and all 12 are in that tent there. I'm like, oh man,
Yes.
you know, space them out, give it some time, go some bigger plants. I wasn't, you know, you know, Subcool is a long term friend of mine, and he always basically preached quads, and that's what I, you know, still pretty much grow in today. But you know, I'm actually starting to take my quads down to 2 plants per 4x4 area now. So you know, I have reduced my plant count immensely to compared to where what I could have. You know, realistically I could have 72 plants floating around here, but usually I'm only working with like 36 to 40. You know, I mean, just to stay in that comfort zone. But I just hate to see it helps my perpetual. That gives me room to breathe if you know I need to get some things going behind me. But you know, I can achieve the same numbers just being a little bit more patient. And you know, like I've always preached there for that perpetual there is if you got 12, then run 444. You know, that way you're pulling some down every month. And, you know, by the time that first one goes, you should have ample time to let, you know, the 8 behind it veg up. By the time you're into that third phase of the game, you should be in a pretty good system where four should four should be pulling you through for sure. If, you know, for the home grower, 4 plants per month for just the average grower,
Yeah.
that's pretty damn good. That should be pulling you through.
Yeah. And even if you need to make, like RSO or edibles that take more than just what you need for smoking, yeah, that's going to be a good amount. And that shade
Shit, I
response,
figure if even if you're average, you're pulling down 2. I mean, that's you know that's 8 ounces per month. You're making RSO and having something to smoke on at 8 ounces per month.
yeah, and that's good. And it's one of the cool things here. I can't sell my extra weed to anybody, but I can give it to somebody. And that's what I've always liked to do. There's plenty of people I know that could use it or that don't have the funds. So I would much rather give it to somebody without the expectation of anything than to complicate it with money. So that is one of the nice things about Washington, that's kind of held over from the medical system there. You can give it away to people, but that shade response is a real deal. You said 12 plants in a 4x4. I early on fell into the same. It's like, oh well, I want to have variety, or I put more plants in here, I'll get more. And then I started to hear and learn a little bit more about shade response. At one point I went from 6 plants in a 3x3 down to just 3 plants in there, and I pulled essentially the same yield with half the plants. They just had they had room to breathe. They had areas to stretch out. They weren't competing with each other. They didn't have shadows from the neighboring plants that were telling the hormones, hey, you need to grow taller. Forget about growing buds right now. You need to grow taller because you're not the tallest, you're not king of the jungle in here. So it's kind of a trip when you can go from less plants to keeping the same harvest. And I wish I would have met Subcool. I wish I wasn't such a like kind of shy guy. I had the opportunity to meet him at the 2014 Cannabis Cup out here. It was in Everett. It was the Seattle Cannabis Cup, High Times, but yeah, he had a little booth and he was there. He's probably with Jinx Proof or somebody, but they were just like talking about soil and he had so much energy and just like excitement. And I'm the type of person who doesn't necessarily want attention drawn to me. Didn't really know who he was. Oh, I knew of him at the time, but the face to the name, I didn't really have that connection. And I look back at that now and kind of kick myself because I stood there to the side and listened to him talk and all this stuff, and I was really intrigued by the person, and now I know why. But I didn't have the I don't know, I didn't go up and talk to him, so I kind of blew my chance to actually have a conversation with the guy, which I regret now. But I love his genetics, and I love the just the imprint that he left on a lot of people, and the purpose of a lot of his work, and the purpose that these people are still carrying his work on with. So yeah, he's seems like a pretty cool dude, man, and I love his work.
That's cool, dude. He was cool, dude. That's for sure. For sure. A lot of weed nerds in chat. That's for sure. I think I give him a lot of respect. I think he's got a lot to do with what we do here and what a lot of people are doing with this community thing. As you notice, it went very quickly from you know content being uploaded, and viewed to it being more about being live and community based. And
Yeah,
I think that all stems right from Subcool there. That when he passed, there was a shit ton of people, myself included, maybe even ahead of the pack there, that felt a huge void, man. That hanging out with everybody nightly, being in these sort of chats here, I missed greatly. And I think a lot of that, we all felt that need to maybe pick up that torch or and somehow whatever recreate it or whatever. We needed it. We needed to rebuild that community before it became lost for sure. And I think he was very responsibility of building this live cannabis communities for sure. I I know I there was many nights I didn't get shit done because that notification bell came
I
on.
could, I could tell you you're repaying that one in spades because you do that to me about every night. I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed early
you
tonight.
know,
Nope.
I giggle every time I hear that because I think of him every time I hear that shit too. Because you're right, he did. He did the same thing to me, and I don't know.
Mission accomplished,
I
man.
always
Mission accomplished. That's awesome. And speaking of, I should probably let you get to the rabbit hole as well and do your things around there. I know I got a little bit of watering to do myself, and just one final flush on these babies, and then next week they're down. So I just have to do nothing but stare at them for another week. That's it. Open their door and close their door on time.
So, do you are you kind of prepping them as they're in that stage? Are you defoliating right now? Are you starting to make your trimming a little bit easier?
I've done a little bit the other day, pulling some of the bigger stuff off, stuff that I could have took off a long time ago. Um, but I had just left it on again. I always love to experiment. I want to see what works best in my environment with the strains I have. So yeah, I did. I pulled a little bit off. Working at that commercial facility, dude, I could defoliate a plant like in a blink of an eye. So I'm pretty rapid fire when it comes to that. So I'm not too worried about it. I do kind of a dry trim anyways. So I'll just take off the big stuff and just, if any of the leaves have trichomes on them, now that I have those bubble bags, I'm gonna leave those on there for the hang dry, because when I take them off after it's hung dry, I toss all of that trim and those leaves with any kind of crystals on them, just toss them into jars, save them all for a particular time of the year, and make that bubble hash. So I don't go too hard on them before, but the plants from veg that are going into flower, yeah, I took them out the other day, and again, I trimmed up everything on the bottom. I pulled all the leaves off from the lower foot of them. Those went through their prep.
Nice. Well, do you think it actually? I actually am in the camp there that it's actually causing a little bit of extra stress there towards the end. You know what I mean? Just kind of helping bringing home that little bit of extra and making my work easier. Come pull down time.
Oh yeah.
Definitely a positive side effect there for sure.
Well, man, either way, trimming's gonna get you. I always say, and I wish I could say I'm joking, but it's true. It's like trimming is the only time I ever curse at this plant, but I do it pretty much every time.
You must be a dry trimmer.
Yes. I'm like, God, yeah. I've done them both, but just I like the little bit of extra moisture the leaves add while I'm drying here. And again, that's just going to be different for every climate that you're in. So some people don't need it. I like having the little bit of extra leaf to slow down the drying to about 10 to sometimes 14 days before I clean it up and take it off the stalk itself. So dry trim helps me with that.
That's my nemesis myself. If I can, I prefer the wet trim. But if I have to, things get backed up, I do start hanging.
Yep.
And then I start cursing right thereafter. And you just see me a little pissy on air or whatever, and I'm trimming. I've definitely got a dry plate of some dry trim in front of me some stuff I'm working over there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't win either way, man. Trimming is trimming. Boo. Got to be done though.
So, is there anybody that you'd like to, thank, or any shout outs you'd like to make before you head out?
Oh man, I just definitely a lot of people out there. I just want to thank you, my man, for providing the show and the hangout and the chat crew. I see in many places, but whenever it's on Eagle Show, it's home. So big ups. I appreciate that, and I enjoy being part of that. But yeah, no really shout outs. There aren't any socials that you're gonna find me on. I am out there on the forums and in the chat. So if you see me, let's chat, man. I'd love to learn something from you. I'd love to hang out. So I appreciate the atmosphere, brother. Appreciate it.
Well, hopefully now that you've came on and done the gauntlet there, like you have to do to jump in that rabbit hole. Now, hopefully, you'll be at least popping in there occasionally, saying hello. And you know what's funny about the social media thing is, a lot. I get a lot of shit done on social media, and so when it came to like sending you your invite today, in fact, I was gonna put out the fucking normal advertisement today, and I went to try to bring up like your Instagram, and I'm like throwing up rocks, and I'm like shit, and it wasn't working out too well for other people today either. So I'm like, man, what the hell's going on? Then I'm like, as the day's progressing, I'm like, man, I really need to send him a damn invite, send him the numbers and shit. So it took me a while in about an hour of frustration of flipping back and forth from my main account to the show account there on Instagram, searching the name, thinking, because my main account's a little funny on pulling people up sometimes. But I'm like, man, shit, Then it finally hit me. Oh, you were
That
communicating through
back.
email, and I'm like, ah, okay, I got it. So I
Yeah,
go through and like search, throw the name in my email there and search, and I'm like, bang, there it is. Okay, I'm on track now. I'm on track.
that's hilarious, man. And yeah, that's true. I appreciate. I'm so old school that it was funny the other day with the with Tommy Tricom. He's like, yeah, just hit me up on Insta. I'm like, but honestly, dude, I don't even think my phone's operating system would handle it. I don't know. I haven't tried. I did social media professionally for a while. Fuck. I have no yeah. I like the community aspect. I'm not that big. I don't have anything to to pump or promote myself. So I'm happily on email. Sorry, man.
Right on. Right. You want to throw that out there in case anybody does want to, or you just want to? They just have to find you in the forums. We gave out a couple of them, I guess, right off the bat there, where they could find you. I guess MJ,
Yeah,
and what was the other one
yeah.
where you're
Well, a
available a
couple.
lot?
The one I'm really at a lot is the growroom420.com. That's a great place. I love it. There's another website, the growweedeasy.com. I find a lot of it's the perfectly named website for beginner growers. So I get a lot of good questions over there. I like to help people there, and everybody's cool, calm, and mature. So that's a great place. But yeah, man, come and find me in the Eagle Gardens, fucking talking shit, hang out, chat. We're there. I'm there, and I'll happy to converse with you. Send me a PM and get you my email, and yeah, love to talk to everybody, anybody. Appreciate the opportunity.
They're asking me to keep you going. That you're a great guest. Just wanted to
Ah,
throw that out there if you're not reading chat at all.
I haven't.
They've
I
they've said a lot of great things about you tonight.
well, thank
Obviously, if
you,
you're not reading
family.
chat, they've definitely enjoyed this episode. Gave you much props all the way through there. That's for sure. For sure.
Thank you,
They
fam.
have
Thank
love
you.
for you. They have love for you, my friend. That's for sure.
Much love. And dude, again, it's so weird receiving praise. So I hope you don't get weirded out by it. But dude, I really do enjoy your show and the message that you end with. Do something nice to somebody. To go off on kind of a side tangent, I know I was wrapping it up here, but mental health is something that we don't really talk about in this country, and we don't talk about it enough. I'm fortunate to have enough. I have a lot of influences from around the world, and I consume a lot of media from around the world, and I see how much more of a conversation it is around the world, just mental health and just daily life. Sometimes it's a lot. These times are a little bit weird, but the message that you put out at the end of your show, it's just like, dude, even a little smile goes a long way. A hello to somebody, just all these little things that you can do to make a difference. Fucking do it, man. Don't be scared. It's a great time to be nice to people. So yeah, praise you, brother, for always sticking with that and doing that. And I'm going to echo that point and encourage everybody here listening to just go out and do something nice, man. Do it randomly. Don't tell anybody that you did it. Do it for yourself and do it for, do it for the next person. You'll be amazed at how contagious this shit actually is. So thank you for that.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Spiky Pilots wants me to say hello.
Yeah, that's my boy. That's my boy from Germany who should probably be in bed by now, but I appreciate you tuning in, Spiky Pilots.
I'm actually looking forward to. I keep trying to get him on to do a spotlight. He keeps saying, "Yeah," but he popped on. If you did, you catch him on Thanksgiving there or Thanksgiving? He popped on during the free for all.
Damn it,
And
I was in and
what a
out.
great guy. You got to check that one out. He's on during the I think it's the Thanksgiving like .5. It's the middle version where I
Okay.
opened it up to everybody. He popped in, and he was just so great. He was very great. A pleasure to have. He says if I do the same thing Christmas, he says he'll pop in for Christmas
Yeah.
and say hello. But he's a
All
good
right.
dude. Good dude. I'd
Nice.
highly
Well,
suggest if you missed it to go back and, if anything, fast forward it until you can catch his where he enters the Thanksgiving there. Great
yeah,
guy, that's for sure.
I will do that definitely. I popped in and out a little bit that day, but yeah, I'll go and look for his stuff. And if you're doing it again Christmas, I will definitely be trolling and waiting for Spiky Pants to jump on.
Right on. Well, it'd be different for you if I go Christmas. I think it'll probably be gone the same what kind of way where, most of it will be like kind of rabbit holes where you have to be past guest, and then that's the way Thanksgiving was. It was like, two parts were just rabbit hole where you had to be past guest, and then the midday from like noon to 6, I opened it up kind of Fumi style and just threw the numbers out there in chat or in the description of the show, and
Oh
anybody that
wow.
tuned in popped in, and yeah, we had some funny moments, throughout that, but it was really cool. It was real. I gave Fumador credit, man. When he first did that shit, I was like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You are fucking crazy. There was actually one funny moment, at least, and nothing against smoking in a small town. Another good YouTuber, content maker there, but I guess blessed. He's hopefully he's not taking this as again in any kind of bad way. But man, he came on and he was so baby faced, so baby faced. As soon as he popped on, I was like, hey man, no offense, but I don't mean to be a dick, but you are old enough to be on this program, right? He was like, God damn it, I'm 35 years old, motherfucker. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't mean
That's the world. It's a blessing and a curse, man. I have some friends that look young and they're like, fucker, I'm 42. But yeah. Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
but he
Yeah.
was he was really good about it and hung out for a little while. Shout
Oh
out
yeah.
to Smoke in a Small Town.
I'm sure that's not the first
Yeah.
time it's happened to him. I mean, when you're blessed with the looks of youngness, yeah, you probably get that a few times. I've only seen it go bad once. There was another podcast, Washington State person, and it was the beginning of the show, and I just happened to click on. They had a couple guests on, and then all of a sudden a new box opens, and boy, there's the biggest, whitest, palest ass just sitting there shaking. We're like, what? Breeder Steve was on the show. He was actually talking and didn't miss a beat. It was freaking kind of great. But yeah, it was
Breeder
funny.
Steve was really cool. I had him on too. At that point, well, I still do it, man. Even like tonight, when as you're on, I have I side by side. I might be able to spin the camera around where you guys can see it. It's like, oh no, it just disappears. It's like right here, yeah. It's side by side chat and like the box. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm reading chat and I'm watching you usually. Side by side there, and so I'm reading comments, and sometimes the people in chat can be hilarious. And Dr. Buzz Lightyear, I miss you, Cat. He's one of the best ones, man. And he would sit there and he would like tag me comment after comment, just trying to get me to crack a smile. And there's been a bunch of times you look back some of them episodes where Dr. Buzz Lightyear's in chat there, and I almost made my cheek bleed one time You know, because he's like just going right at me, and he like the episode's going like super serious, and
Oh,
he's
man.
just like run right after another, just making me fucking laugh inside. And I'm sitting there biting my cheek, but so I'm talking to Breeder Steve, and he gets one through. He's like, boxers or briefs, and I'm like, okay. And I sneak it in to Breeder Steve, like out of the blue. I'm like, well, you know, inquiring minds want to know, Breeder Steve, boxers or briefs. And he just played right along with it. And, you know, well, nothing, of course, man. I'm going fucking
Oh, gee.
commando and shit. And that's fucking. Then at the end of the show, you know, I'm like same thing, you know, same spiel I'll give you, and you know, hey, you know, the numbers are the same. If you ever want to pop in or you know come back, I'd love to have another episode with you. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to come back if you quit sending me them dick pics. And I'm like, and I wasn't expecting it. He about me fucking made me laugh right out of the fucking chair there. So the invite, so yeah, this is how that this pans out. So he comes back, you know. I asked him to come back well, about a month or so ago, something like that, a month and a half ago. So before the invite, I send him basically a fucking picture of a male, kind of just fully flowered, you know, busting out nuts and shit. I'm like, so here's your dick pic. You want to come back for another round?
Can we be
he's, he,
friends?
he's like, of course, my friend, of course. He's a great dude, man. Funny guy, much funnier than I thought he would be. I thought, you know, I thought he'd be all nice and you know serious, but no, definitely a funny guy. Definitely a funny
Yeah, he definitely has the knowledge and the job where he's got to have that serious side to him. But his dry panness sometimes is what I love. Like, yeah, he got jokes, but he doesn't necessarily know. You don't know he's delivering them.
guy. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, that's well. Before you go there, that is very true. The Zoom numbers are always the same. So if you'd ever like to pop in on another rabbit hole or any rabbit hole, please do. Don't hesitate. Don't make me beg. I
No,
think some people actually like, you know, I throw out that invitation, and it's an open invitation. You know, I think some people actually wait for, you know, hey
right.
man, you're gonna pop in, and it isn't that way. If you want to, you got the power to. So, you know, don't wait for the invite. Feel free to anytime you want to pop in a rabbit hole, uh, come talk with us. Please do. And the other thing, of course, before you go, is I want to get your soundbite. If you could kind of help me with that. You know what it is, please.
Oh,
Hopefully,
yeah. Oh,
you know
yeah.
what the soundbite is.
And from being in the music
Good.
industry, man, I know the drops. Do the drops. All right, so it's 270, right?
It's 270, correct?
All right. Greetings, groovy people. You are listening to Chad Westport on the fucking Talking Shit with Eagle program, number 270. Kicking it with my main man, Eagle Gardens. It's the place to be, so keep it locked in the future. Thank you. One love, guys. Growers love.
Man, perfect. Perfect. I
Woo!
greatly appreciate it, man. You can tell you had a little bit of audio teaching there, man. That just flowed too nice and too perfect, my friend.
Thank
It's
you.
gonna be a good one.
Oh, thank you, man. I did host podcasts before there was actually video associated with them. But yeah, it's all good, man. Much love. Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity. And I will definitely jump in some rabbit holes here. I'm a little shy, but a lot of cool people in there I'd love to hang out and talk with. So that'll be fun. I will in the future join you in some rabbit holes.
Yeah, you can jump in when. Well, we always need that voice in the background, you know. That's another thing too. There's plenty of people that you don't feel like you have to show your face. You can always towel it, if you will. I hope you're watching, Towel. Get your box. Actually, yeah, you do have a box. I actually seen on YouTube there that we are side by side. That helps. That helps. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
glad that you get that. So hell yeah. All right. I keep from dragging you on, brother. Thank you very much for coming on, and I hope you do, pop into, any rabbit hole. Hopefully, sooner than later.
Cool, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And good evening, chat. Appreciate you guys too. So one love again. Thank you.
Have a good night, my friend. And that does end out this episode 270 with Chad Westport. What a great episode! What a great guy he turned out to be. I know I enjoyed every minute of being able to hang out. I actually enjoyed some of these episodes to where guests like Mr. Westport there hangs out. Because then I got to hang out a little bit behind the scenes and relax a little bit, hang out and chat without it being so disrespectful for my guests. That's a lot of times why I don't hang out and chat, is because I don't want to seem all fidgety when I'm talking with my guests. And I think it's a little bit distracting on the host's end and disrespectful. So I try not to do it, but if I can sneak it in, of course I do. But tonight I had the instance where I wasn't actually being looked at. I could actually hang out and chat with you guys a little bit. And it was a pleasure. I got to listen and hang out. And what an awesome night. What an awesome gentleman. Win win in my book. Win win in my book. So, those of you that who would like to hang out, please go ahead and join us in the rabbit hole tonight. Uh, For those of you who don't want to just go ahead and end your night, get some rest, no worries. Appreciate you hanging out this long. But for the rest of you who want to hang out, do some dives, do some live chatting, see who pops into the rabbit hole. Of course, it is Thursday night. I'm sure there's lots of you out there that will take me up on that. Let's do this. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Give me about 10 minutes. Yeah, give me about 10 minutes. We'll be back live again by the 220 for sure. So if you get a notification or not, just come check out the channel and know by 220 here, Eastern Standard Time, that I will be live. So check the 20. We'll be back. Hopefully we'll have a bunch of you guys loading back in for the rabbit hole. Thank you very much. If not, you guys know the deal. As Mr. Chad Westport said, do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. I'm a living, breathing example of it. Thank you for tuning in.